Hello BookTube and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm coming to you with a really fun video. At least I think it's going to be fun. I had this idea about a month or so ago when I was doing something else, and I kind of held off on it a little bit, and I knew in November it was what I wanted to do. And I'd like to welcome you guys all to The Beginner's Guide to Romance Novels. I like to consider myself a romance novel aficionado. They are my favorite books to read. And I really wanted to have a sit down because I know a lot of people have asked me in comments and stuff like that if I could recommend them something. So essentially, if romance isn't something that you typically read and you're looking for recommendations, I hope this video is going to help you. Or if you do read romance novels and you're just looking for other recommendations, I hope this one's going to help you too. So this is just your standard romance. In December, there's something special coming in the month of December for my channel, so stay tuned. One of the videos I plan on doing is the Beginner's Guide to Holiday Romance novels, because believe me, holiday and Christmas romance is a complete different subcategory that you could absolutely get lost in for a long time, and it is super fun. So I'm going to start out with talking about my own history with reading romance. My aunt, when I was growing up, was the payroll admin for the Toronto Public Library. So she got a lot of free books, and she would often grab the Harlequin books, I mean the ones that I love so much now, but at the time seemed absolutely cheesy, and she would have them up at the cottage, and we'd be up there in the summertime, and I'd see these books, and they were always the Harlequin Presents books, which, to be honest, are not my favorites. But, you know, she always loved reading them, and I always thought that that was something that older people read. Obviously, a lot of these books are not for young people. But anyway, it wasn't until about 10 plus years ago. I came into romance a little bit later. I was in my 20s already by the time. And I was, again, going up to the cottage to spend the weekend, I think, with my grandparents. And I had stopped at Walmart or one of those type of stores. And I was looking for a book because, lo and behold, I didn't have a book on me, which was weird. I always have a book to read. And I was walking by, and if you guys have ever been in a Walmart, you've seen the row of Harlequin novels that are there. And I saw this one. And it's by a line that the Harlequin no longer produces called Harlequin Duets, which is essentially two full-length novels in one. And this one was called Heaven Sent by Jacqueline Diamond and Shotgun Nanny by Nancy Warren. And these were romantic comedies, essentially. And I loved it. I looked at it and I read the back and I thought, oh, that sounds like fun, you know, a kind of little funny story. I can read that. Prior to this, I was reading a lot of V.C. Andrews, Dean Koontz, pretty much anything I could really get my hands on, but romance, it still seemed like something my mother read, and, you know, it was cheesy and it was silly, and I had no interest in it. It takes the right book to draw you into the romance novel genre, in my opinion, and this was it for me. This was the catalyst, this book. Both stories I devoured in probably 2 days. And, you know, I think, was I spending the weekend or the week? I can't remember. But I remember going back to a store in town to find another, just so I could read it. And this was, like I said, my catalyst, my jumping off point. And from there, I have been obsessed. And I love romance novels. The thing I love about romance novels is that they just don't have to be about the romance. There can be other things in the story, and that's what I'm going to talk about in this video. That no matter what type of books you enjoy reading, you can find a romance novel that has to deal with that topic. So I have my little notes here as well, so you'll have to excuse me. What I decided to do was I decided to pick my personal top 5 favorite romance authors and quickly give a little talk about their books and to kind of give you guys some ideas that these are a pretty safe bet if you're starting out with romance. So the one I'm going to actually start off with off the top is an author I've talked about numerous times on this channel, and that is Heather Graham. Heather Graham is a fantastic romance author. You might not think so by looking at the covers of some of her books. Here is Phantom Evil. This is the first book in the Crew of Hunters series, which I read in September. Reread, actually. I read this book a couple of times. So the whole basis of the story is it's a paranormal thriller. And it's about a haunted house, essentially. That's the basis of the story. So if you're looking and you like that kind of mystery, thriller, paranormal thing, and you're looking to kind of just dip your toes into the whole romance aspect of it, I highly recommend this author. She is fantastic. The Flynn Brothers trilogy is also great for that. And She also writes under the name Shannon Drake if you're ever looking for historical romance. Now, there is a romantic aspect to all of these books, but it's secondary to the primary story. It is not the focus of the books. There are sex scenes in these novels, so be forewarned, and I will talk about how steamy some of these books can be. But I highly recommend mystery thrillers. Another one that I don't have a cover for to show you, but her name is Maggie Shane, and she writes some great mystery thrillers. Not so much on the paranormal aspect, but also have the romance in there, but it's not the focus of the story. So you can really enjoy a story and then kind of dip your toes into the romance aspect of it. The next author I want to talk about, sorry again, my little list here is Susan Wiggs. Anybody who has never read romance novels before and is asking me for a recommendation, I have to talk about this author and I have to talk about this book. And that is Summer at Willow Lake by Susan Wiggs. This is the first book in the Lakeshore Chronicles series. I wanted to make sure. This is about a woman named Olivia, and her family owns a summer camp. And that summer camp has been neglected for years. And it's her parents' 50th wedding anniversary, and she's an interior designer or a stager, like she stages houses for sale, and she's been asked to kind of convert the camp back to what it looked like 50 years ago for this wedding anniversary. So she hires a man by the name of, oh my gosh, is it Connor? To be the contractor, and it turns out he was the boy that she fell in love with when she used to attend the winter camp, or the summer camp. And it's their story, and it goes back and forth from when they were kids and when they met to now. It does have some sex scenes in it. It is a little bit milder, like it's not anything overtly graphic, or steamy, if you will. This is a fantastically written romance novel. It focuses so much on the characters, but not just Connor and Olivia, but Olivia's parents, Olivia's grandparents, the whole family dynamic that comes into it. It's not just about these two characters. It's about everybody, their families, and this book was such an amazing jumping off point for this series. You meet so many characters that you end up meeting later in the series. Fantastic book, fantastic series. In all honesty, if you really want to read a good romance novel, I highly recommend this one to start off with. You will fall in love with romance. The next author that I want to talk about is Julia Quinn. She is a fantastic historical romance author. She is not your mother's historical romance, and I know you guys are all thinking the exact same thing that I am. Those horrible covers, I mean, in my opinion, they're horrible. The guy in the pirate shirt with the long hair that's flowing in the breeze, and she's wearing that bustier with her boobs pushed up right up underneath her chin. That standard romance, you know, that's not this. Julia Quinn wrote a series of books called the Bridgerton series, and sorry, it's kind of hard to see because of the lighting, but this is the first book called The Duke and I, and it is the first of the Bridgerton books. I reread this one this year, and I love it. She puts such an amazing dose of humor into her books, and I think with the humor comes the reality. You know, people are not always stuffy. People are not always, you know, proper in society. You know, families have fun, families joke. And even though this is a Regency novel, and a lot of the times at that time period it was children were seen and not heard, you know, there's a scene in this book where the younger children are having a food fight at the table. I mean, it is so realistic in that aspect. I can imagine that that probably maybe did happen, you know, in Regency England. But again, if you want to try your hand at some historical romance, I definitely suggest giving Julia Quinn a shot. Next up is, sorry, my tablet fell asleep on me, is Jennifer Crusie. Her and the next author I'm going to talk about are both what I would consider romantic comedy authors. You know, the Susan Wiggs books, or like I said, the Julia Quinn book, you know, even some of the Heather Graham, there is a few funny parts in them. But these are ones that will actually make you laugh out loud in spots, at least in my opinion, they did with me. First one is Jennifer Crusie, and the book that I want to show you is called Anyone But You. This book was fantastic. It's about a woman in her 40s who is now divorced, and she decides to go and get a cute little puppy. She doesn't end up with a puppy. She ends up with some big 40-pound dog named Fred, and then ends up falling in love with the local ER doctor. And it is a wonderful, wonderful story. The aspects between her and the dog, like, you know, the relationship she has with this new dog, this ugly, you know, drooly, loud dog that she falls absolutely head over heels in love with. And not in that way. It's a dog, people, but, you know, as her pet. And then, of course, falls head over heels in love with the doctor. So, again, I highly, highly recommend this book. And I recommend this author. She is fantastic. And the last author I want to talk about in the same humorous aspect, but she also puts such a big touch of emotion in her books. I can be laughing my head off in one chapter and actually calling my mother on the phone to read her out the paragraph because it's so funny. And my mother's read a lot of her and she really likes her as well. To the point where the next chapter I am sobbing. And that is Kristen Higgins. And she is an auto-buy author like you guys don't know for me. She has a new book coming out, I think, in the spring that I've already pre-ordered. They don't have a cover revealed for it yet, but I've already pre-ordered it. This book is called The Best Man, and it is the first book in the Blue Heron series. In every one of Kristen Higgins' books, she features an animal. So the main, the female lead in all the books, I think it's only the female, has an animal. Almost every time it's a dog. There was one book, it was a cat, and it was a fat cat named Mikey. But this book, The Best Man, it's about a woman named Faith who was, I can't say jilted at the altar, but she was, they decided not to go through with the marriage because she found out the man she was marrying was actually gay. And the man who outed him was the best man, or his best man, his best friend. So she's always blamed him for her life turning out horribly. You know, maybe if they got married, things would have changed. Like this, let's be honest, she was delusional about the whole thing. But the love story between her and the best man, like the love-hate relationship that they have is fabulous. It's another one of those stories, much like Summer at Willow Lake, that takes you back to when they were kids to now because they've known each other their whole lives. And it is a wonderful, wonderful story. Like I said, it's the beginning of the series. You don't just have to have read this, like, you don't have to read them in order, but I think it's a lot more fun. Faith has had a lot of, some bad things happen in her life as well, beyond being, you know, left at the altar, essentially. Her mother died when she was quite young, and there's a scene in the book that takes you back to that, and just how horrific it was, and that had me in tears. But I really, really do recommend this author. She's absolutely fantastic. So there are 5 authors that I think you guys might enjoy. Now, for the second part of this video, I do apologize if this video is going to run a little bit longer than most of them do. I'll try and edit it just a little bit. I want to talk about Harlequin romance novels. I think they have a bad rap to a lot of people. I think a lot of people consider them to be kind of throwaway romance novels, or just throwaway novels, dime store novels, if you will. They are wonderful. Really, they are such a great, easy read. They take you away from what's going on, and there is something different for everyone. So what I want to do really quickly is go through each of the books, the imprints that Harlequin is currently publishing as of the recording of this video, and talk very quickly what each one is about, like what type of stories you're going to find. Because, you know, maybe you might decide to buy one of these books and it's $8 or $9. The Harlequin books can be $3 or $4, and, you know, it's not as much of an investment to try out to see if you actually like them or not. So, there are 2 that I'm not going to talk about because they're ones I actually don't read. One is called the Harlequin Nocturne line, which is paranormal. Vampires, werewolves, witches. If you're into that kind of thing, definitely check them out. They're very, very well written. They're just not my cup of tea, and I'm generally not a fan of paranormal. I mean, yes, I read the Heather Graham, but that's a little different. This is really paranormal. This isn't just a touch of paranormal. It's all paranormal. So if you're interested in that, please check out those. The other one are the Harlequin Presents novels, which I talked about very briefly at the very beginning. These books I've always had a problem with. I don't know why. They're just not my cup of tea. They don't interest me. I don't know what it is about them. I find them to be very, very far-fetched. One of the things that I love about romance novels is the reality that they're based in. You know, these are real situations that real people could have happened to them. Whereas I find with the Presents line, it's just a little too out there for me. And when I say that, what I mean is dukes and duchesses and princes and, you know, a mysterious prince from this foreign country in the middle of Europe. You know, it's just a little bit too much for me. Some of the other Harlequin books do touch on this, but it's fewer and far between. It seems to be prevalent in the Presents line. But again, if that's something that would interest you, definitely check it out. They're still well-written books. They're just not for me. So we are going to start off with Harlequin Blaze, which are probably the steamiest. These border on erotica. They are wonderful. The book I'm going to show you now, all the books I'm going to show you, I tried not to do it, but a lot of them are Christmas themed. I just pulled titles and covers from like the November, December releases, so these are all recent. So if a cover looks appealing to you, you can definitely go and find it. And this is by Vicki Lewis Thompson, who is a fantastic author. This is Cowboy Unwrapped. And I mean, come on. Like, it's absolutely an erotic novel. I mean, these are extremely, extremely steamy. They are not for everybody. There is often swear words used in these. But they are fantastic. These are pretty much any type of romance that you might have. I've read them where it's about, you know, men in the military, men who are police officers, you know, a boy and a girl who were friends when they were younger and meet again as they're older. You know, there's stories about intrigue, there's stories about suspense, there's mysteries, there's straight up romance. But the thing that ties them all together is the fact that they are erotic novels, essentially. So please bear that in mind. You can probably find anything you're looking for in here, but they are erotic. So the next books I'm going to talk about is the Harlequin Desire series. These are not as steamy as the Blaze, but they can be. These are focused a lot on working relationships and dukes and heirs, and, you know, I said I didn't like that with the Presents line, but again, these are fewer and far between. The book that I picked to show you is called Maid Under the Mistletoe by Maureen Child. Again, they might be a lot of Christmassy, I do apologize. But these are really, really nice stories. You know, a lot about secret babies. You know, that's a big trope in romance novels. And I think eventually, maybe in the new year, I might do a video on the things I dislike about romance novels, because they're not all perfect. So yeah, there's a lot of the tropes in the Desire line, but I still really do enjoy them, and I highly recommend them. Next up is the Harlequin Historical line. These are absolutely wonderful, and in my personal opinion, these have some of the best covers that Harlequin does across the board. I mean, these are just gorgeous. So this book is called Christmas Kiss from the Sheriff by Catherine Albright. The historical novels cover every gamut you could probably think of historical settings. From Regency England to the American West. I have read some that have taken place in China during the Ming Dynasty. Vikings is a big topic lately because of the television show Vikings, I'm sure. But yeah, any type of, or any period in America or in history that you're looking at, you could probably find a novel that will fit the bill. My personal favorite are the American West, which is why I picked this one. I just love something about cowboys and sheriffs. So yeah, I highly recommend these two, of course. Next up is the Harlequin Intrigue line, and the book that I'm showing you is called Kansas City Countdown by Julie Miller, who is a USA Today bestselling author, I might add. These are your mystery thrillers. They are a lot of fun. I really enjoy reading them. A lot of them are part of series. Again, like most romance novels, you do not have to have read the series in order. Just pick them up as you want to. I tend to like to read series in order just so that way I know I've read them all. That I don't pick up one and go, have I read this one? What number is it in the series? But yeah, if you like mystery thrillers, check these ones out. Next up is the original, very first books that Harlequin published. Well, for the romance, which of course was Harlequin Romance. These novels, now if you didn't know, the Harlequin line, all of them are numbered. And it's not like you have to start at number 1, like I said. These are just in publication, this is book number whatever, right? They are now up to, I think, just shy of 5,000 books in the Harlequin Romance line, going back to the 1950s or 60s. So this is one of the more recent ones. It comes out in December. It's called Winter Wedding for the Prince, and it's by Barbara Wallis. These are your standard romance novels. These are the ones that I think a lot of people think of when they think Harlequin romance. There's a lot about different princes, of course, because this is about a winter wedding for a prince. You know, about the whole rags to riches thing. These are really the ones that take you outside of the norm. These are not your everyday individual, like, you know, people that you work with. These are people like, almost like celebrities that you'd read about, the characters in these books. You know, you'd pick up the tabloids and read about Prince so-and-so from Monaco. has met his princess at, in Vegas. Those are the kind of stories that you're going to find here. But they're still a lot of fun, and yeah, they're just great. Harlequin also does another series of mystery thrillers, and those are the Harlequin romantic suspense novels. These are a little bit longer than the Intrigue in page length. And the book that I chose here is called Nights with a Thief by Marilyn Papineau, also another USA Today bestselling author, and these are really good. These I find tend to be a little bit more, the Harlequin Intrigue tend to be a little bit more cops and robbers, if you will, like police, whereas these tend to be a little bit more military, special ops and that kind of thing. So there is a slight difference, but they're virtually the same in the whole mystery thriller aspect. If you like that, check them out. The next two imprints I'm going to talk about are very, very similar. And the reason that they have sort of similar imprints within is that it used to be two separate. There used to be Harlequin and Silhouette, and they each published their own types. So this originally used to be known as Silhouette Special Edition. It's now Harlequin Special Edition. These are longer books, and they focus very, very much on home and family, and, more down to earth, unlike the Harlequin, like I was saying about the Harlequin romance, where they might be about more famous people. These are more about maybe your neighbors and stuff like that. And this book is called Thankful for You by Joanna Sims. Again, the covers on these novels are just gorgeous. So yeah, this one and the next one I'm going to talk about are probably my very favorite of all the imprints. Just because I really, really like a good story, because it's not just about the two main characters often. There's often a lot about secondary characters and, their families and what have you. So the other one that kind of goes with the Harlequin Special Edition are the Harlequin Super Romance. This is Saved by the Firefighter by Rachel Brimble. I have to admit, I don't like these covers anymore. The Harlequin Super Romance used to be some of my very favorite covers, and I'm just not a fan. I'm not a fan of like the real people on the cover thing, but it is what it is. But again, these are home and family type stories. They're, about relationships within the family dynamic and about the two people. These are really, really wonderful stories. And last but not least, for the Harlequin lines themselves, is a new, this isn't new, they renamed the Harlequin American Romance line to Harlequin Western Romance, because pretty much every story was becoming about cowboys. And this one is called The Family in Wyoming by Lynette Kent. And again, these are home and family, but they all take place in and around ranching, Colorado, Wyoming, that area, the American West essentially, but they're modern day as opposed to the American West that I spoke about in the Harlequin historical line. So again, these are really fun. And the last group of books that I want to talk about are not necessarily Harlequin imprints, but they are published by Harlequin novels. And they are a series called Love Inspired. Now, Love Inspired is a Christian fiction line of books, meaning these are very, very tame. I mean, to the point where hand-holding is a big thing, a first kiss is a big deal. There are no sex in these books. So, if that's kind of what is keeping you away from romance novels, then I definitely recommend that you check these out. They are so refreshing to somebody who reads a lot of romance to step away from the whole sex aspect and be able to focus on the relationship. Because I'm not saying that the books that I've already talked about don't focus on the relationship, they do. But sometimes you get some books that don't. Now, all the books that I talked about prior to this, and I know that I spoke about Blaze being like the steamiest, all of them, generally, I can't speak on every single book that's ever been published, but from my personal reading, most of them, 90% to 95%, contain sex scenes. So be prepared for that. Sometimes they don't. But if you're really not looking for that and you just want the relationship and you want the religious aspect, and God is spoken about a lot in these books, and they really are wonderful, that is the Love Inspired line. And the book I'm showing you here is called Yuletide Redemption by Jill Krelmer. Again, these are gorgeous covers, and I love these books. So not only are there these books in the Love Inspired line, but there is also two other books that they publish, or two other imprints within Love Inspired, and one is Suspense. So there's an entire mystery thriller romance series for Christian fiction, and they're wonderful. They're absolutely fantastic, and I love them. This one is called Unraveling the Past by Elizabeth Reese. Really, really great. And then the last one for all those is a love-inspired historical. This one is called Pony Express Christmas Bride by Rhonda Gibson. Gorgeous, gorgeous covers, guys. What I love about the historical ones of these is much like Harlequin historical. You can get everything from Regency to, you know, American West, again, my favorite. There's been stories set in biblical times, and, you know, they're absolutely wonderful. And again, if this is more your speed, and there's nothing wrong with that, please check these out. Also, if you are more into the Christian fiction, and that's something that you think that would appeal to you a bit more in the romance aspect, there is a company, I don't know if they're still around, called Steeple Hill, and they're a publisher, and they publish this kind of thing, and they're wonderful. And then there's another series that I've read a couple of, and it's called Love Finds You In. If you Google search it, you might find the books. I know a lot of them are available on the Kindle, but they are all Christian fiction, and they all take place in a different town in the United States. Like there's one for Christmas called Love Finds You in North Pole, Alaska. So yeah, if you're looking for that, please check that out. So again, guys, I do apologize for the length of this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I hope there's something you took away from it. If you have any recommendations yourself for any romance novels, please post them in the comments below, because I might even do a part 2 of this somewhere down the line to give more recommendations if anybody is interested. But again, I really hope you enjoyed this, and let me know if you've read romance novels. Let me know what your favorite one is in the comments below, and I will talk to you guys in my next video. Take care and happy reading, everybody. Bye.